I wouldn't mind seeing it set up like the NFL is set up with the playoffs. And then if you win, you win. You know, if you lose, you lose.
That's right.
You know?
Deuces if you lose, right?
You gotta sacrifice. You wanna move like bosses move.
YMA, Young Millionaires Association.
All right. Welcome to the YMA Nation podcast, episode number 88.
88, guys.
88.
Yeah.
All right. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Today we have a wonderful show. Today is Sports Talk Friday, and we got a lot of news today.
I know, right?
If you're on right now, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Take a moment.
All right.
You think they did it?
Yeah.
All right. Make sure you like the thumbs up, and down in the comment section, hashtag YMA Nation. YMA Nation, we have a big drawing coming up for, that was for May, right?
Mm-hmm.
For May, we should do them both. We should do May and June and just like give like a bunch of money away.
That sounds like a good plan.
What do you guys think? More money?
No money.
Guys, so let's start off. We are going to start off talking about the Hurricanes. Right now, the Hurricanes is leading the ACC impact for portals. They have 3 top portals. It's amazing how this, from my perspective, and what I'm seeing, this thing is just going crazy. This portal, like everybody is just going to the portal.
Right. I mean, it makes sense because if you're not getting playing time with the team that you're on, or there's coaching changes and you don't like the coaching changes, it gives you an opportunity to go and play somewhere else.
Deuces.
Yeah.
Going into the portal.
Yeah. I mean, like, we talked about the pros and cons before of like the transfer portal. So, I mean, kid wants to go where a kid wants to go, you know, and if they're trying to get to that next level and they feel like where they are isn't conducive to them getting there, then, you know, they're going to leave. So
we're going to talk about 3 that have just been added to the Miami Hurricanes and boost up their roster. Cornerback Tyreek Stevenson. And we also add defensive end DeAndre Johnson and wide receiver Charleston Rambo. We're going to have a strong team this year. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be interesting. Now, we also seen how they're starting to rank Miami versus Alabama. And I don't know. They think that Alabama just gonna come in and just wipe Miami just off the map. I don't know why. I mean, Alabama got a strong team, of course, but we'll see. I'm still rooting for my Hurricanes, and I like Alabama, but
that you gotta watch headlines sometimes because it's like to fuel the fire. So Miami's gonna hear for the whole rest of the summer, oh, Alabama's just gonna beat you, and you don't have a chance, and
they getting riled up. They getting riled up in practice.
Hopefully that like they want to see like a very competitive game. I'm sure. So Alabama's always gonna go in. Nick Saban always has his team like focused. Mm-hmm. Ready to go. It's just the way he runs. It's the way he operates, right?
Right.
So the headlines are just going to give Miami that extra little motivation.
And I think, like, there's people out there that love to see the underdog win sometime.
Right.
So don't be shocked. Let's keep talking about this portal thing. So there's a lot of portals. I'm not even going to go into all of them, but I'm going to touch on a few. Matthew Baldwin goes into the NCAA transfer portal. Ohio State wide receiver Jalen Gill goes into the transfer portal. Ohio State defensive end Alex Williams goes into the transfer portal. Wayne Davis goes into the transfer portal from Ohio State. Man, what's up with Ohio State?
So I think you can't read too far into it either because I don't. Those names don't really pop and sound like extra familiar. So you have to see, like, are these starters going into the transfer portal? Or are these like third string people going into the transfer portal? And like, you've had Clemson players going to the transfer portal. Why? Because they know that they're three, if I'm 3 running backs behind, last year I have ETN, then I have Lynn J. Dixon, then I have the other guy's name.
But what's my chance of
getting playing time? Now, at Clemson, the good thing with them is they do try to play everybody. But a lot of the big teams, when you're on like the third string backup, you're just not going to get that playing time. You're not going to get opportunities to really get involved in the game. And so, I mean, just like going from high school to college, where you have to have that film, you have to have footage, the NFL wants to see what you can do on the field.
Yep.
Everything's about film. Film. Coaches want to see what you're capable of doing.
Right.
If you don't have high school film, it's harder to get into a college team. If you don't have college film, it's harder for you to get in. I mean, the NFL does a lot with the combine, but them coaches are watching film too. Right. They're seeing how you perform in adverse situation. When your team is down, are you still playing hard?
Right.
They don't want somebody who just gives up and quits. That's in any level, right? So that film tells the coaches a lot.
I agree. So you had some news about softball, right?
Yeah. So we talked about the championship game that was last Friday, and interestingly enough, thank you. Oklahoma won the championship.
Oklahoma won,
and what was interesting about the game is they didn't allow FSU to get up, which we had talked
about that last week.
How FSU was getting up and then like holding teams, and that's how they had won.
Right.
A couple of the previous games, but FSU was making errors. They were making mistakes, and
they took advantage of it.
Yeah. I think in that game, if I'm not mistaken, there were 2 home runs hit by Oklahoma.
I wonder how many they bring in, because I didn't see the game, but that's what's important. Like, how many do you have on a basis?
I think they were just single home runs.
Single home runs.
I had to watch the highlights, but I mean, it just goes to show you can have a bad game, or maybe Florida State was like, got a little overconfident because they had got up so much in the previous games, like 8-0, 7-0.
They just thought they was going to come out and just demolish, huh?
So, I mean, but congratulations to Oklahoma on the win.
Definitely. Yeah. Round of applause.
Yes. Then I know we both had this on the top of our in our lineup.
Uh-oh. Talking about Arizona State. Arizona State.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. It's like
we always find a scandal to get in, right?
We always find a scandal. We always tell you guys about the scandals, the hot news, right? Right. So, yeah, they're under investigation by the NCAA right now for recruiting violations.
Alleged.
And that's bold, too. Alleged, right?
Alleged.
It says alleged, but what stood out, and this is on CBS, right?
Okay.
This is what stood out. At least 30 players that came to the camp. Hold on. First, let's step back and talk about what the allegations are. The allegations for the recruiting violation states that the school hosted high school prospects during the COVID-19 dead period. That means the dead period, they was not supposed to be doing any recruiting at all, right?
Well, hosting.
Hosting, right?
Right,
Right. We
right.
feel like bringing them on to the
Campus.
during the COVID-19 outbreak. CBS reports that at least 30 players came to the campus during this dead period. Now, this is what I find kind of sketchy. That's why when we talk about alleged, I'm just saying my point, my perspective of it. The coaches was bumping into the recruits and their families, like in back stairwells and just on the routine walkthrough. And some of them was being hosted like around 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I don't know. It's like, like that that Jordan did is happening. Meet me in a back staircase around 9 o'clock at night.
I guess like if you think about it, I'm sure
She gonna try to justify for Arizona State. Give it up for.
I'm not. I'm just saying. I'm sure they're not the only school that, because a lot of schools had to think about what they're doing for the upcoming season. Not just the upcoming season, but what do I have for the seasons after that? So, clearly you had people that weren't worried enough about it to want to go to the school, to prospects.
Justify.
It doesn't justify.
Violation.
I'm just saying, Just saying. Oh,
but
no. If you break the rules, there's consequences.
You break the rule, there's consequences. I remember last year, Coach Saban, he was doing some type of recruiting. I don't know if it was through Zoom, but online. And then the kid, he recorded it or something and put it on Twitter. But see, he was still following the protocols of how you should have been doing recruiting. So I don't know who all was violating. Last week we did talk about the pros and the cons of expanding to like the 12-team.
Yeah,
playoff.
We talked about that was coming up. That's something that they may be discussing.
Yeah, may be discussing right now for this upcoming season. But if they do agree, it won't start until 2023. So if they do make the change, it's not like it's gonna change this season right here.
Right.
It won't change until 2023. What changes though? So I'm gonna go over some of the pros and the cons.
Okay.
Of if there is a change and it does expand to a 12-team playoff. One, it will make it easier to make the playoffs, obviously, right? Because now if I'm like,
I started off checking it every other week, just like most people do. Then it got out of control. I couldn't help myself. I started checking it day after day after day. I didn't realize that I was becoming addicted until my wife said something.
What did she say?
She said, "It's just a credit score, relax."
Are you checking your credit score?
Huh? Hold on.
the team number 8. I'm still in the playoffs.
Right.
And
I think 12 gets too, I think maybe going to 6.
Mm-hmm.
I think once you get out of the top 5, that you have, even the top 6, I think there's a big drop off.
And the team's performance and the team
right. Mm-hmm. Ability to
be able to keep up with a team that's number 1 and number 2.
Right.
It's interesting that you say that. So I say that was a pro. One of the cons though too is that it says that while the top 4 teams will, hold on, let me step back. So you have more games to win.
Right.
One, so that's a con now. So the top 4 teams, they'll get a first round bye.
Right.
Right. But they'll still have one more game that they'll have to win against one of the 5 to 12.
Yeah.
Or in the top 12. So now they got one more game to win. Even though you get a bye, you still got an extra game to win.
And to get on to that topic, what if you start seeing a lot of repeat games? Like,
I think people like those type of games though, like especially if you lost and then you get a chance to come back and try to redeem yourself.
I guess,
Yeah.
like, it could be interesting that way. But I mean,
But you don't really like the expansion to 12.
I think it's just too many. I think it's going to expand the season too long. I mean, I love football, but from like a student athlete perspective, you know, now you're going into playing how many more games?
Well, if you're in the top 4, you have one more game to win. But if you're number 5 to number 12, you got two more games to win.
Right. So
Then that increases. I'm sorry, go ahead.
that increases injury.
Chances of injury.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like the expansion idea. I think that 4 is too small. I think 12 is too big. I think going to 6 or 8 would make more sense from just the amount of games. If you go to 6, you're just adding another game.
Right.
Right. I think 8 even gets really iffy because of, again, it goes to the level of, and even in the top 4, I mean, how many number 4 teams or are one of the teams in the top 4 have to get blown out? You know what I'm saying? So if the number 4 team is getting blown out in the first game of the playoff, then what is the number 5 or number 6 team going to do?
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting way of saying it. Yeah, that's an interesting way of saying it.
Yeah. So, and maybe they just have picked the wrong number 4 teams. You know, maybe that's a problem. So go to 6 and see how 6 works first, and then analyze that. I would say do a more gradual expansion instead of saying, oh, let's go to 12.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, though. Like now in the news, you know, at first they were talking about 6, 8, 12. Like now in the news, all you do see now is 12 team. So it's almost like they kind of dropped the thought of like doing the 16 or the 18. Because now like in the headline, it's just 12 team playoff. So
Yeah.
we shall see. They should be voting soon.
I mean, I guess it does, you know, the more games you have, if you have home field advantage, if they do it that way and you get to host the game, that's more money for the school.
Right. That was actually one of the pieces of the article.
And also, I mean, in their eyes, people love football, you know, especially in the South. I mean, in the South, football is, you know, highly regarded. So people like, you know, ooh, more football games. That's the way their mind works.
Right.
I wouldn't mind seeing it set up like the NFL is set up with the playoffs. And then if you win, you win. You know, if you lose, you lose.
That's right.
You know?
Deuces if you lose, right?
But-
Interesting. I do have some feedback from what some of the current college coaches are saying. So Georgia coach Kirby Smart, he believes that college football is on track for this change. He said it'll be the biggest change ever. With the potential of what's being proposed, is probably the greatest change that has ever been in the terms of major college football. So LSU coach Ed, he's been coaching for a while, right? He says it is inevitable, and it will be a change that helps the Tigers get in the playoffs.
Of course. Of course you have all these SEC teams that want a 12-team playoff. You know why? Because they litter the top 10 with like 4 SEC teams.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's
It's logical,
great.
yeah.
If I'm number 7 and I haven't been able to get into the playoff. I think it's a wonderful idea that we expand this thing to 12, you know?
Here's what else he said. He said, here's what I've learned. As the older you get, you have to adapt. The game is changing. Recruiting is changing. Things are changing fast. We just have to adapt. Hey, if they expand, then good. It gives us a chance to get in. See, he like blatantly and honestly said what he thought.
Yeah.
So, guys.
Hey, one more thing.
Oh, she got one more thing.
One more thing. The Clemson football camp was amazing.
The Clemson football camp was amazing.
Kay went out there and did his thing. And, you know, there was a lot of top recruits there, you know, throughout the camp period. So, Kay said that was the best camp out of the 3 he's been to so far.
And that was out of UM, FSU.
And Clemson.
Yeah, but interesting that you say that, because if you look at the performance of last year of those 3 teams, right? So Clemson most likely would have the best camp based on the performance.
What's interesting, they didn't do the 40-yard. They didn't do height, weight, wingspan. Dabo said he doesn't care about any of that. He wants to see how you adjust and adapt to performance on what they teach you.
Interesting. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on Monday. I'm trying to get that there. Time to run out. Somebody don't get
YMA.
I want to see the kids
Young
play.
Millionaires Association.
Oh, well.
Yeah, see, that's the association. Joe.